Today we're going to talk about how to install a dual extruder on the BigTreeTech SKR version 1.3. A couple of things you're going to need for this. You're going to need to set up your Extruder 0 and Extruder 1, which is also known as Extruder 1 and Extruder 2. We also need to know what we're going to use for our fan. Then we have our hot ends and our bed. Then we have our power supply over here. I marked red on the screw for the positive, and the other ones I left blank are negative. So in a moment, I'm going to show you each one of these components and how to set it up. To start with, we need to prepare our jumpers for Extruder 0 and Extruder 1. So to do that, we need to remove these because they're in the wrong position. Now keep in mind, you might want to watch my video on the A4988. I go into a little bit more detail about how to do this. It'd be quite helpful, and I'll try and leave a link in the description so you can find it. So with this, we're going to have to do MS 0, 1, and 2. And as I've said just a moment ago, this will be in the link to the description how I've done it before. But we're going to only care about this pin and this pin for MS0. MS1 is this pin and this pin, and then MS2 is this pin and this pin. So you take the jumper, and you're going to jump it like so, leaving the pin on the left free, and the two pins on the right covered. Unfortunately, this takes a moment to do. And there we have it. Now if you look over here, you can see I left the other ones in their normal place for contrast, so you can see what they look like when the board comes. This is our heat bed that I'm going to use for the example. As you can see, it's a 12 volt, 20 watt heat bed, and it's got a thermistor right here that's attached with some Kapton tape. And then over here we have our wires to use to connect to the hot end for the heat bed. And of course I put ferrules on them as well to keep it safe. And then I have DuPont connectors over here to connect for the thermistor on the board. Here's the dual extruder. As you can see, it's got two input ports for filament that run through a tube, and then there's one extruder. As you can see over here, we have a hot end element that runs through the red wires over to here, and I put ferrules on the end to keep them safe so that the wires are not frayed. And then we have our thermistor, which is the white wire, and that's a piece of glass that current runs through, and when the temperature rises or falls, it shows how quickly the electrons flow so that we can tell the temperature. Now I put DuPont connectors on the end of it so it's easier to connect. And then finally we have our fan for cooling our hot end for the dual extruder, and it's got a notched connector on it. Okay, as you can see, there's two different steppers. We have the A4988, then we have the DRV8825. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over the A4988 and see if I can show you something here. Down below we have our enable pin right here, and we know the enable pin is over here for the first extruder being E0. So we're going to rotate this over so that we have the E or enable right here, and then we're going to apply a little bit of pressure to insert it, and as you can see, it's installed. So then for this one, we have to find the enable pin, which is right here. So we have to rotate it over and then align it like so, and apply a little bit of pressure. Now that's all we have to do to connect that. Okay, so we're going to start with the heat bed. I'm going to show you how to connect this real quick. We're going to take the two wires. Now there's no positive or negative. We're going to slide it in to here, and then we're going to tighten the screw down. Now we're going to do the same for the other one. Now positive and negative doesn't matter in this case. And there that goes. Next, we're going to connect the thermistor to the board. And as I've said a moment ago, our heat bed is over here, so it's HB. And positive and negative don't matter in this case either. So you're just going to slide that down like so. Okay, now we're going to do the hot end with the fan. Now the fan, you have to worry about positive and negative, but it's a notched connector, so it can only go one way. So you're going to connect it like so, and you're all set with that. Next, I'm going to connect the heating element, which is right over here. And all you're going to do is you're going to put it in hot end 0. I may have to loosen this just a little bit. And just slide it in. Then do the same for this one. And slide it in. So now these are nice and taut. Finally, we have to do the actual thermistor to tell temperature. And we know that TH0 is the first hot end. So the actual plus and minus doesn't matter in this case. So you just have to connect to the pins right here with the DuPont connectors. So there goes one. And there goes the other. And then finally we need to connect the stepper motors. So I have one here. It's a notched connector in this case for simplicity. So you're just going to slide it in. And then I have the other one right here. And you're going to attach it like so. So in order to program, we have to make sure our TF drive is connected to our drive on the board. Next, we're going to connect the USB serial cable to the big end on the board, and then we're going to take the small end and attach it to the computer, and you're going to hear a beep. First thing I want to show you is because we're connected via a USB serial cable, we can see the USB drive on the SKR version 1.3, and it says that we have a firmware.curb. This is the current firmware that we have loaded on the drive. So I wanted to show you this so that you can see what changes in a moment. But we're going to go over to Atom for now. And Atom has PlatformIO loaded. So next I want to show you how to load the file. Normally you're going to do open folder. You're going to navigate to your unzipped Marlin folder. And you're going to open the complete folder. So once that has been opened, what you need to do is then go over to your source folder inside Marlin over here, then your core folder, then your boards.h, and you're going to search on SKR, and what we're looking for is board underscore BigTree underscore SKR underscore V1 underscore 3. So we're going to copy that, then we're going to close out of boards.h, and then we're going to navigate back to the configuration.h, and we're going to find motherboard, and as you can see right now it's board underscore ramps underscore 14 underscore EFB. So we're going to paste what we just copied, Next we're going to scroll up to the top here, and for our serial port we need to change the 0 to a -1 because of our configuration. And then we got to scroll down, and for number of extruders we actually have 2 because of the steppers, so we have to change that to a 2. And then our diameter for this type of extruder is actually 1.75 millimeters wide. And then there's one other thing we have to do. In this case we only have a single nozzle, so we're gonna remove the comment. Next we're gonna search on the A4988, and because we have mixed steppers, which is not normal for the extruders, but I wanted to do that so you could see what's going on, we're going to remove the comments for X, for Y, for Z, for E0, and E1. And because E1 has the DRV8825, we're going to copy that and we're going to paste it right here. So we're all set with that. Next thing that we need to do is we need to check our thermistors to make sure that they're configured right. So we're going to do thermal settings, I believe is the search. And what we have here is our thermal settings. And down below, each one of these numbers corresponds to a type of thermistor that I showed you early in the video. In this case, with our particular extruder, our thermal setting we're going to say is 8. And I'll show you why we need to know that. So we have temperature sensor right here, and we have 1. 1 is the default. So we're going to change that to an 8. And then down below we have our temperature bed sensor, and it's not specified, which means that it's not in use, so we're going to change that to 1 because we don't know what it is. Next we're going to search on max underscore, and what we have here is default underscore axis underscore steps underscore per underscore unit. If you have different types of steppers, you can follow the nomenclature up here to set it up, but I recommend using the same type of steppers to make it easy. And in this case, if it were the DRV8825 only for the 2 steppers, we'd make it 1000 because it's got twice the resolution of the A4988. The A4988 is 1/16 of a step, and the DRV8825 is 1/32 of a step. So next thing we need to do is go to PlatformIO for the PlatformIO INI, and right now it's defaulted to the Mega ATmega 2560. We need to change that to the correct chipset that we're using. So we're going to scroll down and find it. And what we have right here is the LPC 1768, which is ours. So we're going to copy that, and it's for the ARM Cortex M3, which is the type of chipset on our board. So we're going to scroll back up to default environment where it says Mega ATmega 2560, and we're going to paste it here. Now the final step is to compile and upload with this arrow button. So it'll compile first, then it'll upload to the TF USB drive on our SKR version 1.3. So now that we've actually compiled and we're able to upload the changes, you can see it right here. It says firmware.bin. In order to install this, what we need to do is actually remove the USB and reconnect it. But before I do that, I want to show you something in PlatformIO on Atom. Here's a setting I didn't tell you about initially because it's already set by default. It's your thermal protections. You need to leave this alone because if you get a runaway heating situation, it will throw your printer into off and show a failure because your thermistor probably broke. So let's get back to the actual removing of the USB. And now I'm going to reinsert it. And as you can see, the firmware.cur has now been updated recently. So in order to check this, we're going to check it in Pronterface. Okay, off camera I connected the power supply for the SKR version 1.3, and now I'm going to plug it in. Now keep in mind this is now energized, so you want to keep your hands away from it. Okay, we're going to open up Pronterface. We're going to connect to the SKR version 1.3. As you can see, it says connecting and says printer is online. So let's check to see if we got the right software version of M115 and press enter. And it looks like we're good there because we have 2.0.x, but we don't have a second extruder here. So we need to make some modifications. So we're going to go to options. We're going to change number of extruders for extruder count to 2 and press OK. We're going to disconnect. We're going to close Pronterface. We're going to reopen Pronterface. We're going to connect to the device, and now we have 2 tools to choose from, 0 and 1. So let's start testing stuff that we have installed. First, we want to test to see if we can turn on the heat. So it's set to 50 degrees by me for safety, and normally it would run at 185 for PLA that I use, but other people do use ABS. So we're going to turn that on. Okay. So as you can see, we've got a little thing right here that shows the current set temperature, and then we have this little light blue line rising to it. So it's going to 50 degrees Celsius. So that works. Now we're going to do the heat bed. And there's a little line right here. And then there's another line approaching it underneath. It's hard to see. So let's try turning on the fan. So we're going to type M106 space P0 being the first fan, and then the speed we'll say is S150 and press enter and see what happens. So as you can see, the fan is running. So to turn it off, we would backspace and say S0 and press enter. So that works. Next thing that we need to test is the steppers. So first thing we need to do is enable cold extrusion. So we're going to type M302 P0, and then we'll say S for the temperature, and in this case we'll say that it's 51 degrees, or excuse me, 49 degrees Celsius, and press enter. And we want to do the same thing for the second extruder, so we're going to say P1 S49 and press enter. So to test the first one, we're going to say extrude, and we're going to see what happens. Now we're going to change the tool to the second one. So now it says 1, and we're going to try extrude again. So if you like my tutorial, please press the like button and subscribe, and thank you for your time.